Welcome everyone to May 19th City Council public hearing. Before we start the public hearing, I just want to make an unusual, but I wanted to say it, that today I think there's been a historic decision in the courts that about the constitutionality regarding the rights to marriage. And I want to say congratulations to Bruce and Matt, right to go after 40 years. So the first public hearing item up tonight is an ordinance adopting hazardous substance user fees for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2014. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. In accordance with provisions of Section 54, Article 7 of the Eugene City Charter and Section 3.694 of the City Code, the cost of running the Eugene Toxics Right to Know program must be fully funded by fees assessed to local manufacturing businesses that are hazardous substance users. To support the program for fiscal year 2015, the Toxics Board is recommending that City Council adopt a fee of $56.75 per FTE employed by participating businesses in calendar year 2013 up to the state-mandated maximum of $2,000.
Thank you, City Manager. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Those wish. I don't have anyone signed up. Do we have anyone signed up? We have no one signed up to speak on that. So I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to ask if there are any questions from City Council. I don't see any. Does any councilor object to taking action tonight? I see no objection. So, Council President.
I move to adopt Council Bill 5113, an ordinance adopting hazardous substance user fees for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2014.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ready to vote? All those in favor, please indicate. 8 in support and none in opposition, so it passes. Thank you all very much. The second item up is the public hearing on South Willamette Street Improvement Plan, and I just want to remind everyone that we know this is an issue that people have a lot of passion about, and we want to be sure that everybody, and I think you know this, we want this to be a safe place for people to be for or against. And so I ask you not to clap, not to hoot, not to do any kind of sounds, but let everybody express their views in a respectful setting. So thank you for doing that. And so I'm going to ask the manager to introduce the topic.
Thank you, Mayor, and apparently this one won't go quite as quickly.
Well, there are 55, so no.
Tonight we are holding a public hearing to hear from the community about street design options for Willamette Street, identified in the draft South Willamette Street Improvement Plan. In preparation for a paving project to be constructed in 2018, there are 3 alternatives under consideration for Willamette Street between 24th and 32nd Avenues. Alternative 1 is 4 lanes, similar to how the street is now. Alternative 3 is 3 lanes with bike lanes, 1 travel lane in each direction and a center turn lane. And alternative 5 is 3 lanes with wide sidewalks, again with 1 travel lane in each direction and a center turn lane. All alternatives would include a new traffic signal at the Woodfield Station driveway on Willamette Street. And action is scheduled for May 27th.
Thank you, City Manager. I'm going to open the public hearing. Those wishing to speak during the public hearing must have submitted a completed request to speak form to the information desk prior to the beginning of the public hearing. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. You have 2 minutes to comment. There are lights on the timer. The red light indicates the end of the 2 minutes. So, first up, Bob Kaminsky, followed by Julia Olson.
City Councilors, thank you for holding this hearing and allowing us to speak. My name is Bob Kaminsky. I live in Ward 2, and I'm the principal at the Village School, a K-8 public charter school in Eugene, located at 2855 Lincoln. We're at the old Willard School site right behind the Market of Choice. At my staff meetings, I often open up with the question, how are the children? It's a wide question, and it gives us time to reflect. You know, as principal of a school, My first concern is for safety of the children, followed closely by academic achievement and citizenship. Similarly, I asked the City Council, how are the children? And as a follow-up, how will we, as a community, ensure their safety? I believe we need bike lanes on Willamette Street to ensure their safety, alternative 3. I understand there's some people among us tonight who might instruct us to say, well, tell the children to ride on a quieter road. We can do without bike lanes on Willamette Street. That's a thoughtful request. But for those of us that have children or grandchildren or work directly with children, we know they need supervision. And I believe they need supervision to follow such safety procedures as going to the quieter street. Children will take the shortest route to their goal, whether they're leaving schools to go home or going from home to school. And I'm not just talking about families with young children, but I'm talking about the middle school children and high school children who will be commuting up and down Willamette to go to Woodfield Station. Also, there'll be a new Starbucks going in there. There's going to be a lot of activity.
Sorry to cut you off.
And so I am for
Thank you.
bicycle lanes on Willamette Street.
Thank you. Julia Olson is next, followed by Teo Olson.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, City Manager. My name is Julia Olson. I live in Betty Taylor's ward near 28th and Friendly Street. And my family has made a commitment to use our bikes as our primary form of transportation in order to reduce our carbon footprint. It also is a way we get exercise, we experience our city, and we save money. We regularly patronize businesses on Willamette Street between 24th and 29th, including Capella's, Tsunami Books, Holy Cow, Arriving by Bike, True Value, Oregon Community Credit Union, Market of Choice, 16 Tons, Laughing Planet, Office Max, Play It Again Sports Great, Harvest, Off the Waffle, Down to Earth, and the Bowling Alley. We're great consumers on Willamette Street. However, I would frequent those businesses more often if it were a safe and comfortable place to bike. When we go to the stores on Willamette, we do this really, this route that's crazy, and we ride on the sidewalks because I have my kids with me. And the sidewalks themselves are unsafe. There's cracks and tons of driveways. It's just not a viable option. I recently rode up the new bike lane from 18th towards 24th on Willamette, and it was lovely, and thank you so much for making that possible. I was on my way to Donald Street, and the gap between, right before 24th to 29th it's so stark, and it's the ugliest stretch of Willamette. It's the place where you feel less community than anywhere else on the street. And so I guess what I really want to emphasize is that option 3 is by far the best choice. It's an alternative that creates a safer environment for families, for bicyclists. It would help implement the city's climate goals, and it would create a more continuous neighborhood feel in the area. It would create a greater sense of community for those 5 blocks. It would help us connect with each other and the local businesses we want to support. So thank you for choosing bike lanes all the way through Willamette Street and bridging the gap.
Perfect. Teo Olson.
A model.
Teo?
Get better.
Hello.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Teo Olson. I live in Betty Taylor's ward. I really like to bike places like school and on Willamette Street, Play It Again Sports, 16 Tons, Tsunami Books, Down to Earth, and Off the Waffle. I feel like it's unsafe to bike in the roads because of the drivers, because they aren't paying attention and being unsafe. And on the sidewalks because there's a ton of driveways and hazardous cracks. Can you please put bike lanes on the stretch of Willamette that doesn't have any as soon as possible? Thank you.
Thank you. Faye Frost Olson, followed by Barbara Gleason.
I'm Faye Frost Olson, and I'm 7 years old. I live in Betty Taylor's ward. I think that it should be illegal for you to say you can't bike on the sidewalk. I think that you should change the bike lanes and make them go all the way through Willamette Street because it seems unsafe to bike in the road, and then they say it's illegal to bike on the sidewalks. I am a bicyclist, and that's why my shirt's dirty. I bike to play against sports, Market of Choice, Laughing Planet, Holy Cow, the bowling alley, Down to Earth, arriving by bike, Off Waffle. My favorite place to go is play against sports. I bike to school, music lessons, on Amazon, downtown, Saturday market, and lots of parks. Biking is important to me because it doesn't pollute like cars, and it gives me exercise, and my teacher tells me that it makes me stronger. Please make bike lanes on Willamette Street. Thanks.
Very nice. Up next is Barbara Gleason, followed by Elaine Zablocki. Barbara?
Yeah, this will be better than that one. Hard act to follow. I'm here to talk a little bit about my
Talk
concerns.
right into it, Barbara.
I'm here to talk a little bit about my concerns. I'd say Barbara Gleason, I'm in Betty Taylor's ward. I live in Eugene, and I have a store, Wild Birds Unlimited, on Willamette at 2510. I'm mainly concerned because I'm worried about this test. I knew when I moved into that building that there was going to be construction. Didn't know quite what the outcome was going to be. But to have an additional 2-year test where I will lose business before that construction concerns me deeply. My customers, alas, don't mostly come by bike. They have to haul 20-pound bags of seed, bulky feeders that are heavy. So I have 8 customers who come by bike. Only one of them comes home with more than suet. And suet does not keep my business and my 5 employees
Speak
with
up.
jobs. I'm sorry,
That's good.
most of the people don't come to get much if they're on bike. They just come to get small things, and that doesn't help me support my 5 employees. So I'm mainly opposed to the test because I don't know what will happen if we lose. We're only there for a little over a year, and if we lose a lot of business in this next test period, plus then when the construction goes on, that could be deadly for our small business and my employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Zablocki is next, followed by Megan Kemple. I know it's a challenge.
Elaine Zablocki. I live in Betty Taylor's ward. I'd like to ask the City Council to postpone this decision as long as possible, and for 2 reasons. The first one is we may end up with Fred Meyer on the Civic Stadium site, and if we do, that will change the amount of traffic on Amazon and on Willamette Street, and I would think about that seriously. More importantly, when we think about this issue, I think about the big picture, sort of what we expect for the big future, not just for those 4 blocks of Willamette Street. In our lifetimes, I expect to see gas at $10 a gallon. I expect to see 80% of the people who are currently driving cars not driving cars anymore and bicycling. I think the bicyclists are wonderful pioneers, and obviously in that future, this redesign would make an enormous amount of sense at that time. I do not support 3 lanes for Willamette now because of the number of cars we have now, and I don't see that those cars are not about to evaporate. I'm concerned about the fact that Willamette has regular bus transportation, and when a bus stops, it may stop for like 2 minutes to let people on and off, fire engines. But Willamette is not my main concern in speaking to you tonight. It's that I see this very difficult future ahead of us that most of the time we're preparing for in 1% increments. And I wanted to take this time, when you go to meetings, when you speak to other people, when you have the interesting conversations in the corridor over coffee, could you find out if other people see the same future coming that I do?
Megan Kimball is next, followed by Molly McCarrion.
My name is Megan Kemple. I live in Eugene. I live in Ward 7. I've lived in Eugene for 18 years. I live here, one of the main reasons that I live in Eugene is because it's a bikeable city. I get around by bicycle, that's how I travel. Willamette is one of the few streets in Eugene that I do not feel comfortable bicycling on. I can either bike in the street with traffic. It's actually illegal for me to do that if I cannot go as fast as the cars are. Or I can bike on the sidewalk, where I'm either hopping off and on to let pedestrians go by, or being very, very nervous about cars coming in and out of driveways. I have had a lot of bicycle accidents, and I'm very concerned about my own safety as a cyclist. I've been encouraged by people to bike on other streets, and I want to just say that it does not feel inclusive to be asked to travel somewhere else, to go somewhere else with my bike. I'd just like to ask you I deserve to be able to travel on that street. I want to ask you to support an option which includes a safe space for bikes. Thanks.
Thank you. Molly McCarrion is next, followed by, it looks like Menina Newman.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. My name is Molly Markarian, and my husband and I own and reside at 1677 Lincoln Street, together with our twin 2.5-year-old daughters. We are a one-car household. My husband and I commute by bike, and we walk whenever possible. I have a chronic health condition that can affect my mobility at any given time, and we deliberately sought to purchase a home within walking distance to downtown Eugene Transit Station, the Eugene Public Library, and several business districts that we patronize on a nearly daily basis. One of these business districts is the South Willamette District that we access by car, biking, and walking, depending on our purpose and needs. I choose to walk along Willamette from 18th to 28th at least weekly, if not more frequently, usually pushing a double stroller. However, I do not do so because it is a safe and pleasant walking environment. I take extra precautions when crossing intersections and passing across driveways. I steel myself for the reality that only a curb lies between me and 4 lanes of traffic whizzing by. And on rainy days, I put on our rain gear from head to toe and breathe more easily when we hit the stretch of Willamette where there are setback sidewalks or bike lanes, a de facto buffer between traffic and the pedestrian. I do this for many of the reasons typically given for fostering increased walking, bicycling, and transit ridership in our community: greater neighborhood social connectedness and awareness, improved physical and mental health, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, and creative inspiration. Countless resources and tireless effort has gone into developing and adopting policies in Eugene that call for a public realm that supports and encourages walking. A plethora of local, statewide.
Thank you very much. Menina Newman is next, followed by Julie Daniel.
My name is Menina Newman.
Right into the mic, please.
My name is Menina Newman,
Much better.
and I live at 150 West 24th Place. I'm a registered nurse. I live with my husband, daughter, and mother a few blocks from Willamette on West 24th. I've lived at our home for 7 years. South Willamette Street is where I bike, get groceries, go to restaurants, patronize shops, and meet friends and family. I want all our local businesses to thrive, and I believe a change in the street configuration will increase the amount of customers these businesses serve. Our family uses multiple modes of transportation. My husband and daughter bike to work and school. My 82-year-old mother walks to her shopping or takes the bus. I have a disability, and mostly I drive my car or walk to neighborhood destinations. I know this stretch of Willamette intimately and understand firsthand how unsafe the current four-lane configuration is for all my family's modes of transportation. For elderly people like my mother, parents with small children, and people using mobility devices like myself, Willamette is truly problematic. It is not a pleasant street to walk down. Pedestrians struggle to share narrow sidewalks with cyclists who ride on them because they do not feel safe in the street. I do not permit my daughter to ride on Willamette due to speeding cars making erratic lane changes in order to bypass left-turning vehicles. Motorists like me are frustrated by unpredictable stopping due to the lack of a dedicated center turn lane and frequent speeding. But we now have the ability to improve Willamette Street for businesses and residents. My strong preference is alternative 3. This option would better accommodate pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. We have a wonderful opportunity to create a Willamette Street that could embody a true 20-minute neighborhood where businesses are successful and where neighbors and families arrive safely using their mode of transportation.
Thank you. Julie Daniel is next, followed by Kathy Jaworski.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I'm Julie Daniel, and I live in Ward 3. I want to address this from a little bit of a business point of view. I am a cyclist. I use cycling as my primary mode of transportation, and I have to say that even though I live in close proximity to the Willamette Street stores that are the kinds of stores that I would love to patronize, I hardly ever go to any of them because it's just too difficult to get there, even from my neighborhood. You know, it's just such a horrible access that I really don't patronize those businesses, even though they are the ones that I would like to be patronizing. So I'm one of the many unspoken cyclists who just avoids the area. So I'm strongly in favor of option 3. But I'm also a business owner, and currently I'm facing a situation over there in your neighboring city where I'm having a great deal of street work done in front of me, and I know just how incredibly disruptive it is to have construction going on and how very frightening it is for small business owners to look at the disruption. So I'd like to share with you a couple of things that have made it a little bit easier for me, and maybe this is something that is already going on here in Eugene, in which case disregard this, but what I went to the mayor and city council in Springfield to, voice my concern about the viability of my business with the road being torn up and having difficulty with access and closures and what have you. And, was able to quantify, look, this is what it means to me per day. This is the kind of money I take in per day. This is what it's going to mean to me. And after much discussion, the mayor and council directed staff to work directly with us, which was extremely helpful because a lot of times city staff don't have the authorization to provide a business owner with the kind of documentation that they really need in order to be able to plan and make decisions. And sometimes it can be very specific. I want to know when the bid documents are going out. I could talk to you all later about that, but it's good point.
Thank you. Kathy Jaworski is next, followed by Avery McGray.
Hi, I'm Kathy Jaworski. I live in Ward 4. I'm speaking as chair of the Sustainability Commission. I'm a former resident of South Eugene. I do shop and go to the dentist, and I still like South Willamette Street. Many unique stores there. On behalf of the Sustainability Commission, I want to say that we support option 3, which is the 3 lanes with bike lanes. We communicated this to council and the city manager over a year ago on May 8th in a memo, so you have that. And in that memo we cited how that option is the most consistent with many established plans and policies that the city already has, including the trans plan, bike ped master plan, the pillars of Envision Eugene, the climate, energy, and action plan, and more. And you have more of those in your agenda summary. So why is it needed? One is we have made a commitment as a city and a community to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and anything we can do to plan for reduced reliance on automobiles is important to meeting that goal. Secondly, as everybody knows, we're a growing city, and our major corridors need to support multimodal transportation, all of our major corridors, in order to encourage people to use many modes of transportation, not just cars, or else we will have total gridlock, lose our quality of life, and change our city forever. As a small business owner, I'm also very supportive of viability of small business. Research does suggest, which we cited in our memo, that complete streets are good for business, and I would encourage you to look at that. Finally, the Commission and I personally support the study period, the 12-month study period, as long as it's done rigorously and in good faith, with no foregone conclusions about what should happen, with a commitment to make a decision based on the results with an eye toward the long-term best case for our community. So thank you very much, and I will support the businesses on South Willamette during construction on my bike. Thanks.
So Avery McRae is next, followed by Holly McRae.
Good evening, City Councilors. My name is Avery McRae, and I'm a third grade student at the Village School and a resident of Ward 1. I'm here tonight to tell you why Willamette Street is not safe the way it is now. Currently, when I walk down the street, it doesn't feel safe because the cars are too close to the sidewalk. Because there are no bike lanes, my family and I have to take the lane. That makes me nervous. Because of that, we don't support the local businesses very often. Even my parents don't drive on Willamette Street because of the way it feels. When I am a teenager, I want to be able to walk down to Starbucks or go to the bowling alley with my friends after school and not worry about the cyclists riding on the sidewalks. I just hope in the future everyone has a safe way to get around on Willamette Street. Please choose option 3 to make this possible. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you. Holly McRae is next, followed by Susie Swinehart.
Good evening. Let me begin by saying thank you for your public service. My name is Holly McRae, and I'm a mother, a homeowner, a healthy lunch lady, and a resident of Ward 1. I never considered myself an advocate for anything until I had a child. Now I find myself concerned about all kinds of things. The quality of drinking water, protection of our agricultural land, the quality of our educational system, and as my daughter reached an age where she started to walk or bike to school, I found myself increasingly interested in how does Eugene make our roads as safe as possible for our most vulnerable users. So I volunteered for 4 years on the City of Eugene's Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. During this time, I gained a whole new perspective about the very complicated world of transportation planning. I had the opportunity to participate in the pedestrian and bicycle master plan process, organize a pedestrian summit, and participate in the stakeholder meetings as part of the Willamette Street redesign process. Over and over, I've heard from people about how Willamette Street was not working and unsafe. Unsafe for drivers, unsafe for pedestrians, and unsafe for cyclists. I was thrilled when the consultants at DKS hired by the city to evaluate Willamette Street found that there is a way to make the street safer for all users, and that is option 3. To be honest, it seems a little strange to me to put this forward to a vote, given the competence of the staff and the consultants that have worked so hard on this project, the alignment with city goals and policies and plans, and the many, many community members that have for decades been repeatedly asking for a better street design for Willamette. But alas, here we are. So I ask you councilors to support option 3 so we can move forward with a safer and smarter street design that will serve us all better. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Swinehart is next, followed by Jim Patterson.
Hi, City Council. My name's Susie Swinehart, and I'm a resident of Ward 1. I'm a 4J teacher, and I've been a resident of Eugene for 11 years. And while I really enjoy riding my bike, to be honest, my primary use is by car. I'm very much a fair weather biker. And when I drive down Willamette Street, it's a very stressful experience for me. If I have to make a left-hand turn, the need to stop and wait for the 2 lanes of traffic to clear leaves me in fear of getting rear-ended. And if I'm going through, cars abruptly stopping or switching lanes in front of me are concerning and alarming to me. Pulling back out onto Willamette is also not a fun experience. If I'm making a left turn onto Willamette, it's really the reality of waiting for 3 lanes of traffic to clear, both the 2 that I have to cross and the one I'm trying to get into. So I think a lot of the time we hear from the car perspective it's going to make it worse, or some people feel that it'll be more. Option 3 would be more stressful for car drivers, but as a driver myself, I feel that option 3 would be the best one. I do sometimes avoid the Willamette area when traffic is bad because I don't choose to be in that kind of experience. I'd like to frequent the businesses there more often and feel safer while I'm doing that. Thank you.
Jim Patterson is next, followed by Ree McSween.
Thanks to the council and mayor and others for listening. I'm Jim Patterson. I'm in Ward 1, and we live close to South Willamette, and we're down there virtually every day, usually on foot because it's unsafe to ride our bikes, though we would like to be able to do that. We patronize most of the businesses up and down the street, and we find when we go every day to the our athletic club at 27th and Willamette, and it's just unpleasant to walk down there. If I have to walk from, say, my ophthalmologist to Market of Choices, I did last winter, when it poured rain, we got wet, we had gravel and unsafe sidewalks, and it just isn't very pleasant for pedestrians or cyclists. Incidentally, I'm on a couple of senior and disabled committees, and I represent older people as we are, and it just especially isn't comfortable for that category of people. So thanks for listening, and I support option 3.
Ree McSween is next, followed by Todd Miller.
Good evening. My name is Ree McSween. I am a disabled, 100% disabled U.S. Coast Guard veteran. I lead a Cycling for Veterans group every week, May through September, that is supported by the City of Eugene Adaptive Recreation. I lead veterans who have PTSD and other physical disabilities in a health and wellness ride every week. We also branch out into other rides. One area of town we never go to is South Willamette. One of the reasons because it's not safe. We often have adaptive bikes, which are bigger, wider, lower to the ground, harder to see. So it is very unsafe for us to be riding on South Willamette. We love all the improvements that have been made to bike trails and bike paths throughout the city, especially Alder. Oftentimes we'll get on the river path and ride Alder all the way up to Amazon so we can go down Amazon. I support option 3. One of the reasons I support option 3 for South Willamette is because I ride on 18th a lot. That has sections that are 3 lanes with 2 bike paths on either side. That feels safe to us. The traffic is very familiar with bikes on that route, and they're very accommodating to us. Without those 3 lanes, I wouldn't feel safe. I've watched the traffic on West 18th a lot, and it works really smooth. Sometimes there's a delay with a bus stopping, but people work really well together on that route. I know there's a lot of fear about what's going to happen if we choose option 3 for South Willamette. I'm done. Thanks.
Todd Miller is next, followed by Catherine Levine, or Levine.
Mayor and councilors, thank you so much for listening to all of us this evening. My name is Todd Miller, and I reside in George Brown's ward, 1859 Jefferson Street, with my wife Christina and our 2 children in elementary and middle school. I have lived in Eugene for 15 years, and I own and manage 2 rental units on my block, conveniently located next to bus and bikeway corridors. I'm on the Friendly Area Neighbors Executive Board, and I'm very committed to Eugene and neighborhood livability and vitality. While I served on the Friendly Board in 2001 to 2003, we put a lot of energy into South Willamette Street. One of my first impressions of Eugene was hearing about how great the Friendly neighborhood was, but how horrible a street South Willamette is. City planner Chris Henry has stated, "We would not build a street like this today. It is clearly antiquated in design, unsafe, and does not serve the overall community well, particularly the vast and growing percent of our urban population that does not rely on a personal automobile for transport." The Friendly Neighbors are particularly committed to pedestrian connectivity and safety and are proud to have been instrumental in getting the signal and crosswalk at 25th and Willamette, and recently endorsed the city's own recommendation for Alternative 3 as the right choice for Willamette. It saddens us to know neighbors are avoiding our premier neighborhood business district due to its unwelcoming design. We are in a new era of urban living and rethinking our reliance on the automobile. Pedestrian and bicycle access and safety are key to our vitality. My autistic son gains self-confidence and pride in using his innate navigational skills to go to school or join me in errands by bike. We own 3 cars, yet we walk, bike, and bus regularly in our community. We hear opposition to any upgrades for Willamette Street's design. This is a classic response to fear of change. We heard it during the smoking ban that was going to kill downtown Eugene. We heard it when the plastic bag ban went into effect without hardly a ripple. We heard it when Willamette was changed from one-way to two-way in Midtown. We're hearing it now about South Willamette, and with recent grave reports about climate change impacting our way of life, we absolutely cannot afford our old modes any longer. Thank you.
Catherine Levine is next, followed by Rob Zako.
Hi, everybody. My name is Catherine Levine. I'm the owner of Holy Cow. And I'm here not to repeat what everybody else said. I've already been here before and you've heard me. But I want to stand here very firmly in favor of option 3 as a business owner. I feel that the street as currently configured is extremely unsafe. And I'd like to take it to a test. In short, that's really what it is. I think that the fear, everything can be seen through this test. And that's where we should go with this, and with no further ado. I do, however, want to also put in the note that the streets will not drain properly until we get to the actual street paving. That is going to impact bike traffic on the street, and we need to know that ahead of time, that that's going to be a factor. I drive a car most of the time, I'm sorry to say, but I also think I'm a progressive business owner, and I believe that this is a better design for the street and for all people involved. I hope that all the people who have come from the neighborhood will continue to make our neighborhood one of the most vibrant ones. I think there's a lot more that we can do to make it a really great neighborhood, but I think changing the street is really, really important, and the only way we're going to see is by trying it. So I would say that it's not bikes versus cars, because I'm actually a turning lane advocate. I think that the turning lane is important for the safety of the street. I think the bike lanes, whether they get used or not, we'll figure that out. But in the meantime, it creates a buffer on the street, which will make the pedestrian and all of the other sidewalk activity much safer. One of the first ideas they had was to put streets parked on the car to create this buffer. We do not need that. A bike lane will create the same sort of room on the street for vehicles to move over and all the other things the street needs to do. So once again, let's just try it and see. Let's be forward thinking. I can't imagine that after all this time and effort, we don't try something new. Maybe it doesn't work, but at least we will have tried. So again, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Rob Zako is next, followed by Tom Schneider.
Should be over here. Mayor and Council, my name is Rob Zako, and I live at 1280B East 20th Avenue in Eugene, in Alan Zelenka's ward. I urge you to direct the city manager to pursue significant improvements to South Willamette Street, particularly Alternative 3, because currently the street is at best unpleasant and at times outright dangerous to almost everyone who uses it. My wife and I have lived in the Amazon neighborhood for 20 years. It's our major commercial district, blah, blah, blah. Those places people listed, we go to all of them, listed like 25 businesses. We also have a plot at the Amazon Community Garden 3 blocks away from South Willamette Street, so we tend to garden there and then walk or bicycle to shops or restaurants. Like many in Eugene, we are multimodal. We drive, bicycle, and walk to and across South Willamette Street. During the last 2 major snowstorms, we cross-countryed to South Willamette Street. We liked that there were not many cars on that street or any street, so it was great. I've never taken a bus in the area because the cross east-west connections don't connect to our neighborhood. Regardless of my mode, I do not enjoy South Willamette Street, and at times it scares me. Making a left turn, and this is in a car, onto the street from any business is risky because you have to cross 2 travel lanes and merge into a third, and that's difficult to do in a car. When on a bicycle or walking, crossing the street is dangerous as cars don't stop or slow down, and there are too few crosswalks. Getting to and from Market of Choice on Willamette is particularly hard for all modes, making that left turn in or out. Bicycling along parallel streets is often not an option as Portland and Oak Streets don't go through, and the rare times I've tried to bicycle along South Willamette Street or its narrow sidewalks have reminded me why I don't do it very often. Walking along the street is unpleasant. I try to frequent the Second City Art Walk and do that, but you've got cars whizzing by, going very fast like it's still the gut of Eugene. It's not pleasant. In brief, I support South Willamette Street. The status quo isn't working. We need to do something different. Thank you.
Tom Schneider is next, followed by Doug Brown.
Hi, I'm Tom Schneider. I'm in Councilor Pryor's ward, and we were there today dedicating the Bailey Hill Road Safety Plaza, which did go from 4 lanes to 3 lanes, and the businesses in the Churchill Plaza is completely full. I came by there the other day, and it was full of cars. I think it's the first time in 15 years I've seen the whole plaza full of cars. So I'm just saying 3 lanes does work. It does slow people down, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 or 20 seconds, but it does work. I think my major concern with South Willamette Street, my son lives at 150 West 27th, and as he was coming down on a bicycle, someone decided to make a cut through on the businesses, on through one of the really unnecessary driveways that were coming into South Willamette Street. You could easily go another 40 feet. He wanted to try and miss the traffic light. He hit my son. He was in the hospital. He's lucky he didn't break his neck. You know, I think that really it's a political thing that you need to direct staff to do to really consolidate driveways, really get with the 21st century. And I think that's probably, you know, you're not going to make some folks happy. You know, this is a, and I really appreciate your service. I appreciate what you guys did on West Eugene. I appreciate what you did on the Ferry Street Bridge thing. I mean, when you correct every driveway, when you make everything up to 2015 standards, 2018 standards, you really got to take getting rid of driveways seriously, because that's really what will make a more pleasant walking environment. Walkers tend to stop in twice as many stores as people that come on cars or bikes, and they spend more money, unlike anything, and the businesses will develop delivery services for bags of 20 pounds or whatever, sheets of plywood. You know, that's how it needs to go. Business will adapt. Thank you.
Doug Brown is next, followed by Rich Bowden.
My name's Doug Brown, and I'm a property owner on Willamette Street, and I am opposed to the test, and I'm in favor of option 1. I'm opposed to the test, and I'm in favor of option 1. The biggest reason that I'm opposed to the test is I was involved in an informal survey of property owners, business managers, and business owners along Willamette Street, and we personally spoke with over 55 representatives, and only 2 of them were in favor of option 3, or of doing the test. And another reason that I'm opposed to option 3 particularly is because of the effect it will have on ingress and egress to Willamette Street from side streets and parking lots. It's going to be much more difficult for cars to integrate into flowing traffic with only 2 lanes traveling north-south than it is now with 4 lanes traveling north-south. And I want to thank city staff, and particularly Chris Henry, for being so available to all of us to help us come to an informed decision about this. Thank you.
Rich Bowden is next, followed by Alan Hancock.
Hi, Rich Bowden, 660 West 26th Street. I live in the friendly neighborhood, and my daughter goes to Camas Ridge Middle School and attends the Eugene Ballet Academy. And we travel around Willamette Street a lot. We live in the neighborhood. We go to some of the businesses there. We travel by bike. It's our way of life. We travel everywhere on bike, but we don't travel on Willamette Street. We would like to travel on Willamette Street. We'd like to go there more often, but when we do, we have to take the sidewalk. And thank you for putting in the bike lanes that are there now. It becomes a little easier to get around. But we would like to see Alternative 3 adopted and bike lanes put in on Willamette Street. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alan Hancock is next, followed by Jim Wilcox.
I'm Alan Hancock. I'm a member of the Eugene Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and I live in Alan Zelenka's ward. As city councilors, you often have to make a lot of hard decisions, everything from cutting the budget to dealing with homelessness. But, you know, this is actually a really easy decision, because the decision to build a multimodal Willamette Street is an obvious choice because of the hard work this council has done over the decades and the councils that have come before you. It goes all the way back to 1979. Now, that's a long time ago. I mean, the Bee Gees were singing Saturday Night Fever in 1979. You know, come to think of it, I think former Mayor Ruth Baskin was learning to dance the hustle in 1979. Honestly, 1979 was also the year that a safety study that was sponsored by the state and federal agencies was delivered to the city of Eugene, recommending that bike lanes be added on South Willamette Street. That was 35 years ago. Now, since then, time and again, the city council has adopted and the community has embraced other walkable streets and ordinances that favor transportation options. For instance, and Ms. Jaworski mentioned some of these, the Envision Eugene calls for compact urban development, efficient transportation options, and 20-minute neighborhoods. The 2010 Climate Energy Action Plan calls for 20-minute neighborhoods and more trips by walking and bicycling. The Pedestrian and Bicycle Master Plan identifies Willamette Street as a high-priority project for bike lanes and pedestrian improvement in order to provide safe and equitable access for all users of our public right-of-way. The Arterial and Collector Street Plan provides design recommendations for minor arterials like Willamette. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Wilcox is next, followed by Mark Schlossberg.
Thank you, City Council, for allowing me to speak today, including the Mayor and the City Manager. My name is Jim Wilcox. I live in Betty Taylor's ward, and I've been a resident there for about 34 years. This comes full circle for me. In 1973, as a freshman at the University of Oregon, I was given the task in my health class of finding out why 27th and Willamette was so dangerous. I got you beat down 41 years ago. And so if I had figured it out then, I could have told the council and we wouldn't need to be here today. You would have fixed it. But that was then. Over the past year, those of us who gathered around the shared vision of Willamette, a place for everyone, reached out to families, seniors, shoppers, and businesses to see if they supported redesigning Willamette to make it a 3-lane with center turn lane street. The answer was a resounding yes. The support was so great that over 900 people from all walks of life took the time to sign these cards in support of Alternative 3, expecting them to be delivered to you, their representatives on the City Council. Many of the 900 signed cards are from South Willamette neighbors, the parents, the shoppers, the diners, the commuters who are dissatisfied with South Willamette as it is now. But just as important are teens and young adults who signed, demonstrating a clear preference for transportation alternatives to the car. They represent the future of our city, a future they look forward to, where Willamette is a place for everyone. All those in favor, please stand. I'll wait for my time to expire.
No?
Sort of.
The time is still.
Visual aids. That's what he meant.
We're fine.
Good to know signs are cool now.
Okay, time's
Thank you.
up. Thank you. Mark Schlossberg is next, followed by John Rowell.
My name is Mark Schlossberg. I live in Alan Zelenka's ward. Thank you for the opportunity to share my views on Willamette Street. I live near this section under discussion, often shop at stores along the stretch, and usually use my car to do such. On occasion, I try to walk or bike, but I'm usually so dismayed that I give it up for a while. I've lived in Eugene in the same neighborhood since 2001, and I've raised 3 children who are now 12, 14, and 16. I would love for them to be able to access this area, but they currently cannot. I'm also a professor of city planning at the U of O, where I focus on issues of sustainable transportation. A couple of months ago, I released this book, Rethinking Streets, an evidence-based guide to 25 complete streets transformations, which I believe all of you have a copy of. The book documents 25 completed street projects from around the country, many of which are similar to the 4 to 5 lane conversion proposal for Willamette, option 3. Although I am sure you have all read the book, cover to cover, I will remind you of the main findings. First, projects like option 3 have occurred hundreds of times around the country. Second, in such designs, vehicle throughput tends to remain the same, vehicular crashes and the severity of those crashes decline, pedestrian and bicycle use increases, and economic activity does better. And third, making a permanent public investment in the right-of-way leads to land redevelopment and reinvestment. Locally, you should remember that city staff would never build a street of the current design again. Public meetings in the run-up to the street design overwhelmingly supported option 3. Existing city plans and goals already call for this to be a multimodal corridor with mixed-use infill. And finally, Oregon's 1971 landmark bike bill requires that, at a minimum, the city must include a bike lane on Willamette when the street is reconstructed. In short, the trial for Willamette has already been done successfully hundreds of times around the country, benefiting every conceivable user. As a community member who values our city's commitment to sustainability and livability, as a father, and as a national expert on sustainable transportation and street design, conducting a trial on Willamette is a waste of time and money, in my opinion. The project should just get done.
John Rowell is next, followed by Richard Hughes.
Well, Mark mentioned the book. I'm a co-author with Mark and 2 fabulous graduate students. I'm John Rowell. I live in Allen Zelenka's ward. Thank you for all your work on this. As an architect, urban planner, and someone interested in the vitality of our urban neighborhoods, one of the questions I really wanted to ask in the research study that resulted in that book was an honest question: do they work? Do they help businesses? Is it a good idea? We had studied South Willamette prior to doing that research and compared it to other commercial streets in Portland of similar type. And so the idea that complete streets transformations can produce positive outcomes was an important discovery for me to convince me that this, in fact, the evidence supports what we're talking about in option 3. And it's not just a general observation, it's specific to Willamette. Our work looking at Willamette, measuring it, we had students interviewing businesses and really researching and understanding the street, told me that this isn't just generally a good idea, but on South Willamette, we will see positive results. I agree with Mark that I don't think it's a good idea to do a temporary restriping. I think part of the outcome is not just the safety of lanes, but the visual appeal of the street. And if you only go halfway, you may not get that. I think the evidence is there. It's worth doing. You should just go for it. Don't delay. Let's get a positive outcome soon on South Willamette. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Hughes is next, followed by Duncan Rhodes.
Good evening. I'm Richard Hughes. I live in Ward 2, Betty Taylor's ward. I work with Travel Oregon on their bike-friendly business program. And a recent study by Travel Oregon reports that 58% of visiting cyclists have household incomes of $75,000 or more, and 9% have household incomes of $200,000 or more. The total bicycle-related travel expenditures by this group is $400 million annually, and is responsible for more than 4,600 jobs throughout Oregon. Accommodations, these cyclists spend $81 million, restaurants and bars $96 million, groceries $53 million, fuel and transportation $71 million, and so on. There's other detail here. When cyclists stay overnight in a community, they spend 19 times more than if they were just visiting for the day. So it's important that option 3 and bike lanes be added to South Willamette so that the businesses can benefit by the cyclists that are visiting Eugene. Thank you.
Thank you. Duncan Rhodes is next, followed by David Stratton.
Do I get extra time just to crease to my chair?
It won't start till you get over there.
Okay. Yeah, I got a new hip a week ago, and I'm still trying to walk up there. Yes, I'm Duncan Rhodes, and I live in the Whitaker, and I'm a constituent of Claire Surratt. In about a month, I'm going to be moving to 4001 South Potter, which is like Amazon and Fox Hollow. I don't know whose ward that's in. Anyway, I'm speaking as a motorist. I mostly drive my car, pick up my grandson, tote him all over the place, and I never drive on Willamette Street. And the businesses there don't get any of my business because as a motorist, that street is very unpleasant to drive on. And it's been that way for a while, and I don't see what the issue is. I can't see a downside to trying a couple of bike lanes in that street. It can't really get much worse. Thank you.
David Stratton is next, followed by Emma Newman.
My name's David Straighten. I live in South Eugene. Council, mayor, manager. I'm opposed to the test. I think it's based on a false truth. The false truth is that bicycles have to be in the street. I think the best way to solve an integrated car and bicycle situation is to use the best way. And for me as a bicyclist, that's a dedicated bicycle route. Alder Street and Hilliard Street are a great example for Willamette and Oak Street. Bicyclists are not prohibited from Hilliard, but they're encouraged to go on Alder Street. Automobiles are not prohibited from Alder, but they tend to run on Hilliard. And I think Oak Street with a connector to 24th is a beautiful example. The city has already shunted bicyclists on the south end of town at 32nd or 31st over to Oak Street, and that can be facilitated into a very integrated system that gives bicyclists their own street with their own rights of way. That gives us the option of having 4 lanes. Left-hand turns can be resolved in numerous ways. All over town we have left-hand turn signals that create a rational and reasonable left-hand turn option, and they tend to create, for me, they cause me to turn left at the light rather than a driveway. They help direct me to an option. I think that 4 lanes is inherently safer if the left-hand turn lanes can be resolved, or turn can be resolved by signals. Why are 4 lanes important? We have businesses that are just now coming out of the recession. How much are you willing to have a test affect businesses if the business financial part of it is negative? 5%, 10%? My view is nothing. You can do this with 4 lanes with a dedicated bikeway, and you'll be resolved.
Emma Newman is up next, followed by Kelsey Moore.
Good evening. Thank you so much for hearing us tonight. I used to live in South University neighborhood, I used to live in the South University neighborhood. Just recently moved to the Whitaker. I'm enjoying walking over there. I used to take my housemates to South Willamette and go to Off the Waffle. That was one of our favorite places for dinner. However, my housemates who would bike to and from campus every day didn't feel comfortable once they got onto Willamette Street. I also had a similar experience when a friend was in town visiting just a few weeks ago. I met with him for breakfast at Morning Glory, and he was out here trying out the University of Oregon, looking at it for grad school, looking at PSU, just comparing different schools in the area because he's looking for a place that he can have a livable life with walking and biking. Currently, he says, my name is Ray Atkinson. My walk score in my hometown of Kannapolis, North Carolina is 0, so I am forced to drive a car. Since I desire to live a car-free life and realize North Carolina is not making this possible fast enough, I enrolled in graduate school in Oregon. During my visit to Eugene a few weeks ago, I biked down Willamette Street. Even though there were bike racks, I didn't feel safe because Willamette Street is a 4-lane road without bike lanes. I felt like I was back in North Carolina, where I was trying to get away from. So I got on a bus as soon as I could. I would love to visit Eugene again and see bike lanes on Willamette Street. I would also like to see this vision come true. Please vote for option 3 and support people in my generation who are taking the chance to spend our money on local businesses instead of owning cars. Thank you.
David Gazzara is next, followed by Bill Aspergren.
Hello, my name is David Gazzara. I'm a registered nurse, and I live in Ward 2, represented by Councilwoman Taylor. I grew up in a family business. We had a shoe store in a traditional downtown that changed and adapted as shopping centers and malls were built. I am very aware of how fine a line the small business owner exists on between failure and making even a modest living. For this reason, my heart goes out to the small business owners who will be impacted by road construction along a small but vital stretch of South Willamette. The fear that any kind of road construction at all will seriously impact them financially and possibly put them out of business is huge and real. It makes sense that someone might fear anything but reconstructing the present outmoded, unsafe design dysfunction of a 4-lane expressway in the midst of what is South Eugene's downtown. A stretch that is more than a 55-second raceway to maybe get to the next red light fast. As a small business,
He needs to hear you speak up a little more.
I think he turned it
Hold
off.
the mic.
Push the button on the black thing. That's okay.
Do I get more time?
I think you got it.
A stretch that is more than a 55-second raceway to maybe get to the next red light faster. As a small business owner, the fear I might lose my livelihood by unnecessary process and change crowds out my ability to see considered functional change like multimodal street design as a benefit. I hope we don't create unnecessary expense, excessive process, and thoughtless stress for our South Willamette business friends by having a test period of the 3-lane car, 2-lane bike, safe sidewalk design that will provide fair access to all the different ways Eugenians move around their town, spend their wages and time, and interact with their community.
Thank you. Did I skip someone? Sorry. Are you Kelly? Kelsey, come up. And you're next.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Moore, and I'm in Claire Surratt's ward. And I am here tonight to say, why do people care about Willamette? Why are so many people here tonight talking about Willamette Street? And the answer is because there are, I think, over 160 amazing businesses directly on that stretch. And we're here because we want to access them. And basically, okay, it's not a question of car or bike. It's a question of getting to the business. And I'm of a younger generation. Please stand if you're here and you're under 35. So you'll see, I don't think you normally see a ton of young people at public hearings, but we're here and we're asking you to make this street a multimodal street where I can choose to drive, walk, bus, bike. I want to shop at those businesses, but I want choice, and I'm going to choose a different mode every day perhaps. But I really don't want to see this street left behind. I don't want it to stay an outmoded street where the younger generation can't access the businesses there. So again, people are here tonight because they care about the businesses on Willamette Street, and I hope that that shines through, and I hope that our street design, I hope we choose alternative 3 to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Aspergren is next, followed by Susan Stump.
Hi, I'm Bill Aspergren in Councilor Zelenka's Ward 3. I'm a driver, I'm a pedestrian, and an experienced bike rider. I like to imagine South Willamette Street as a safe and pleasant street for all of these modes of transportation. Currently, it is neither safe nor pleasant for drivers, walkers, or bikers. If Eugene is serious about helping South Willamette become walkable, bikeable, 20-minute neighborhood, the street needs to be reconfigured. I support 3 lanes with a middle lane for left-hand turns and bike lanes on either side flowing with the traffic. I do not support a trial striping. Factors such as reducing the number of curb cuts, providing space for buses, increasing the width of sidewalks, eliminating utility poles from sidewalks. These things can only be dealt with as part of a comprehensive design effort. Without this, the trial run's validity would be questionable. Jeff Speck is the author of a very readable book called Walkable City, and he has a chapter, Protect the Pedestrian, and another one, Welcome Bikes. These two chapters provide concrete reasons for converting Willamette to 3 lanes for cars and 2 for bikes. He discusses why this change would make the street safer and more enjoyable for users. I suggest you take a look at this book before coming to any conclusions. And there is a copy at the library, but it's out and there's a hold on it. I will loan my personal copy to you folks to look at. I urge you to look at the evidence and recommendations and imagine a safer and more pleasant Willamette Street for drivers, walkers, and bike riders. The best way to do this is by committing to reconfiguring the street into 3 traffic lanes and 2 bike lanes. Do not waste resources and time on a trial restriping. Thank you.
Susan Stump is next, followed by Beth Iva.
Hi there, my name is Susan Stumpf. I live in Ward 2, represented by Betty Taylor. I want to thank you for your commitment to making Eugene a vibrant, safe, and accessible place to live, work, and play. I love living here and appreciate the opportunity to contribute to the city of Eugene in all the ways that I do. My family and I attend concerts at the Cuthbert, Shakespeare in the Park, participate in the Sunday streets, and we shop locally as much as we can. I work and I pay taxes, I volunteer, and I vote. I'm here today to share my concerns for our planet. I feel an urgency that we have to do something now, yesterday, 10 years ago, to veer our culture away from the destructive behaviors that we are engaged in. We need to lower our dependency on fuels that pollute our planet. I do not want to hear about one more pipeline bursting and spilling tens of thousands of gallons of oil in the waterways and drinking waters of our communities, or anywhere. Or fracking that makes our water undrinkable, or coal dust in the air causing serious health problems. Not on my behalf. That is the biggest reason why I'm taking personal responsibility for the resources I consume. That is why I ride my bike more than I drive my car. I have a car, but I choose to ride my bike to lessen my impact on the planet. I have money for gas, but I am voting for the earth instead of BP. I live on East 36th, and I would like to ride my bike to do my errands on Willamette Street. Please vote for the planet and build us some bike lanes on Willamette. I want to shop at all the places we've already mentioned. I can't easily and safely get there by bike, or by car for that matter, and so most of the time I don't bother. I guarantee you that if you build it, we will come. Thank you.
Beth Iva is next, followed by David Nelkin.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Beth Iva. I am a mother. I grew up in Eugene. I live near Laurelwood Golf Course in the Fairmount neighborhood. I don't know what ward that is. I ride my bicycle and I also drive. I cross Willamette Street every day at 29th to take my children to school at the village school. Usually 2, 3, 4 times a day or even more, going back and forth for my volunteering or reading to my child's class. I also take music lessons with my children on Willamette Street at Harmony Roadhouse Studios. Needless to say, we frequent Willamette between 24th and 29th daily, and I support option 3, the addition of bike lanes with 3 lanes of car traffic. I think it is a better design for cars and for bicycles. I drive down Willamette Street often, and I am not worried that option 3 will slow down traffic. I welcome slower traffic on Willamette Street. I honestly would never ride my bicycle on Willamette, especially not with my children in the current state that it is in. And I have a very large cargo bike. I can spend hundreds of dollars and carry hundreds of pounds on my bicycle, and I do. So I'm definitely a good consumer for Willamette Street businesses. I don't like to walk on Willamette Street with or without my children. I find it to be fast, noisy, and dangerous with the frequent driveways and cars.
entering and exiting parking lots suddenly. This high volume area feels dangerous to me. Because of this, I don't visit other businesses on Willamette, and it's really for aesthetic reasons. Metropole, Off the Waffle, Holy Cow, I do not prefer to visit these places because of the loud, busy street that is so close by. And if Willamette slowed down, I would absolutely go to these establishments more often. Thank you.
David Nelkin is next, followed by Kevin Rawlings.
Greetings. My name is David Nelkin. I'm a 35-year business owner at 2472 Willamette Street. I'm glad to see so many of the biking community here, and I hope in your case the squeaky wheel doesn't get the grease. If your goal for Willamette Street is to achieve the triple line bottom solution, then you have one choice, and that is to keep Willamette Street 4 lanes. Safety. The number of accidents has been reduced in the last few years to be statistically at the state average. Putting bikes next to traffic is, quote, a relic of a different era and very old-fashioned, according to a YouTube presentation about Zwolle in its nomination as Bike City of the Year in Holland. Side streets are safer for bikers, and because cars are not rerouted onto these streets as a result of queuing and backing up of lights, less vehicle miles are traveled and less energy is used. Economic vitality. Anytime you restrict traffic in a vibrant district like Willamette Street, you lose cars to other routes and less business will occur. Do not repeat the downtown mall mistake and limit travel lanes. This will ruin a working financial area. We know the consequences of that decision, like the Israelites in the desert, 40 years of desolation and wandering. Community livability will be enhanced by having a vibrant 4-lane street with access for bikes on shareways, new level sidewalks for pedestrians, and space for buses and fire trucks. Please act on the only common sense and triple line proposal on the table and keep Willamette Street 4 lanes. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Rawlings is next, followed by Brian Weaver.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Rawlings, and I own the UPS store in the Woodfield Station. We located our business there in 1991. I grew up in Eugene. I lived in South Eugene. I've always been proud to say that my business is in South Eugene. Having said this, I have some real concerns concerning these changes. I'm concerned that by changing the street to 1 lane of traffic in each direction, we're going to impact traffic negatively. Where it's going to take longer to get places. People will not like that, and I believe that they will use alternate routes, such as Jefferson Street, which is in a residential area. And I'm sure they don't want more cars on their street. My next concern, though, is really about the firefighters. The head of the firefighters union is against this change. He is concerned that responding to emergencies will take longer. And any length in time for response to an emergency can result in somebody dying. It's the city's responsibility for safety of everyone, including somebody having a heart attack. Finally, I don't understand what is considered a failure on this study. Are having 2 accidents a month instead of 1 that we currently have a success or failure? Is having 1 business fail, or 2, a success or failure? Is having somebody die because it took longer for the ambulance to get there a success or failure? We business owners will be the ones that feel the ultimate effects of your decision. We are the ones with the financial skin in this game. Nobody but us, and the people that work for us will be impacted by your decision. I hope that you take this in consideration before you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Weaver is next, followed by Rosalind Stoops. Brian Weaver. I don't see him, so Rosalind?
Good evening. My name is Rosalind Stoops. I'm from the Netherlands. This is my daughter. She lives on 2095 Harvard Drive. And I hope I can something say to you. I was with my daughter this afternoon. We visited Willamette Street. And I can only say that was a very, very dangerous situation at all. For pedestrians, for bike. That's why I asked, do the trial. Find out how it is, as there are bike lines. After 1 year, there's only 12 months. And then you make a decision. I heard before me, the person said that it was bad for the shops. That's in certain way true. During the changing of the situation, in 3 cases, that is the moment the income of the shops will be less. But that has always happened. After you make the bike lines, it is proved in the Netherlands that there are less accidents with children, with people of my age. Certainly, at my age, I am 67. There are enormous, many people who bike. I have no car. And I think if you want the situation accessible for everyone, for every habitant of Eugene, you must do it together. In the Netherlands, it worked. Really, it worked. And I give one advice, and that is make the bike lines red-brown. That is a good initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna Orr is next. I think I got that right. Yes. Brianna Orr is next, followed by Lori Bernstein.
Hello, my name is Brianna. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. I'm a resident of Springfield, and I'm an employee of the University of Oregon. And you might be asking yourselves why I care about Willamette Street. I should say I'm here representing my own personal views and experiences, and I support Alternative 3 for Willamette Street. I graduated from the University of Oregon in 2012, and one of the things that I wanted to do when I was thinking about where I wanted to be was choosing a place that was easy to get around on foot and on bike and on transit. And the place that I live in Springfield is. I live about a couple blocks from MX. I live just down the street from the Ruth Bascom bike path, which I take to work every day, and I can walk in my neighborhood. So this is really important to me, and I believe that obviously it's very important to many people here today. Willamette Street is an exception in our city, an outdated road, like many people have said. I've worked on Willamette Street in the past, and when walking to the bank or to get lunch, I always did so in fear of getting struck by a vehicle. I'm in support of Alternative 3 because it provides a dedicated space for every mode, no matter if you arrive by foot, auto, transit, or bike. As a dense commercial area, I believe we should create a welcoming pedestrian space. If bike lanes are not provided, this means bicycles and pedestrians will need to jockey for the same space on the sidewalk. That doesn't feel very comfortable for me. I also wanted to give you just an illustration of the rise of bicycling around campus. These are the statistics that I know. So consider this. In 2006, 15% of our students rode their bikes to school every day. This is about 3,000 people. And now we have 23% of our students riding to campus every day. That's 5,600 people, near doubling of the number of people riding to the U of O. Of course, these students also ride all over the city. So I urge you to create a street that's welcoming. Thank you.
Lori Bernstein is next, followed by Mike Werr.
Good evening. My name is Lori Bernstein, and I live in Alan Zelenka's ward. I've lived in for the last 22 years, I've lived in South Eugene, within approximately a half a mile of the Willamette Street area. My husband and I walk, bike, and drive to many businesses, but our primary mode of transportation is bicycles. When I do drive down Willamette Street, many cars are turning left, so I find myself just sticking to the right lane. So in a lot of ways, I find, for me, Willamette Street functions as alternative 3 as a driver. However, the safety for cyclists is certainly not there. Providing safety for all users needs to be the top priority. I ride my bike throughout Eugene. Willamette Street is by far the worst street I can cycle on. If I'm going to one store, I do tend to weave my way through the back roads. But if I go to the credit union and then move to Down to Earth and then over to Capella's, really the most logical route is straight down Willamette Street, and to not really weave in and out of all those side streets. I support alternative 3. It is the safest alternative and supports all users. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Weir is next, followed by Leonardo Cruzes.
Hi, my name is Mike Weir. I'm a dad and a teacher. I live in Southwest Eugene in Betty's Ward. I think this stretch of Willamette is broken. It needs to be fixed. It's stressful, it's dangerous for cars, it's virtually inaccessible to pedestrians and bicyclists. I love Willamette Street. I'd love to be able to walk and bike there with my kids. Our school has been doing walk and bike to school day for a few years now, and it really has worked. My kids want to ride as a family to go shopping and go out to restaurants. We recently lived in Berlin, Germany for 6 months on sabbatical, and even though Berlin is a really crowded city, kids and grown-ups can walk or bike anywhere safely because of all the bike lanes they have. But I'd have to be insane to let my kids ride their bikes on Willamette. In Los Angeles, they have a place at Universal Studios called the Universal City Walk. It's just shops and restaurants along a street that you can walk along. But that is so unusual in Los Angeles that people actually drive an hour on the freeway and pay $20 to park in the parking lot so that they can walk around and shop and eat. Right now, this stretch of Willamette is more like Los Angeles than Eugene. I would like to bring Willamette back to Eugene. That's why I strongly support Alternative 3 design, which will open up this wonderful area to everyone and create a vibrant, walkable, bikeable neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Leonardo Cruzes is next, followed by William Word.
Good evening. My name is Leonardo Cruzes. I live at 18th and Chambers. I've lived in Eugene for 6 years now, and I'm in support of Alternative 3. For the past year, I have been an employee of the Center for Appropriate Transport, where I've taught metalworking, specifically bicycle fabrication, to adults and youth, teenagers. And I just want to say something that I think Eugene is remarkable. I decided to stay here because of the sense of community that I feel. When I ride my bicycle, when I walk down the street, and I see familiar faces, and I can stop and I feel comfortable on those streets, on those sidewalks. I can stop to speak to those people. I can stop to visit the businesses. It's one of the reasons why I feel the sense of community. It's one of the reasons I visit certain neighborhoods over others. I visited South Willamette to patronize 3 businesses today, among some of the dozens that I patronize, and I would visit it much more often if I felt accommodated on the street. Thank you.
Thank you. William Word is next, followed by Jerry Oltian.
Hi, I'm William Ward. I live in Southeast Eugene. I moved here in '74 because of the bike system that was starting up then. I watched it grow, and I'm really frustrated about Willamette Street. You know, when's it going to change? I'd like to see option 3 as soon as possible, no test. I've seen multi-car accidents personally on the street, And what goes through your body when you see the impact, the noise, the steam from the radiator, people trying to crawl out of their cars, it's in my heart. And I'm just blessed that I raised my 26-year-old son, and he didn't have an accident on his bicycle using Willamette Street. And it's a no-brainer. I just can't see it. It's going to help business. It's proven in Europe, everywhere. And I'd just like to take the rest of my time, a moment of silence for people that have had accidents on Willamette Street and the people in the future that are going to have accidents on Willamette Street until we get this fixed. And close your eyes and maybe visualize how nice it would be with Willamette Street done right with option 3.
Thank you. Jerry Oltian is next, followed by Scott Landfield.
Hello, I'm Jerry Oltian, a resident of Betty Taylor's Ward, Ward 2. I'd like to start by thanking Chris Henry, who has spearheaded this information gathering process. And I have to say, I've been involved with this from the start, and Chris has been a model of transparency and information and level-headedness. Could not ask for a better project manager. Thank you, Chris, for being the person on the job. So, as far as my opinion goes, I am both a bicyclist and a motorist, and I was originally a proponent of the trial run. When I read what the cost would be, closing in on $1 million, I think that's a little much for a trial run. I think we can already see how this process, how this 3-lane and bicycle lane process has worked if you just look at 29th Street between Amazon and Willamette. Traffic backs up to Mill, Ferry, sometimes all the way to Amazon, and it's not just during rush hour. Traffic backs up like crazy on 29th after it was reduced to 3 lanes and bicycle lanes. I think Willamette Street will be even worse. And speaking as a bicyclist, I would not ride on Willamette Street even if you did put bicycle lanes on there. It's not safe to ride a bicycle in that heavy a traffic. I just wouldn't do it. So I say, yes, let's have bicycle lanes. I am a bicyclist. I would love to bicycle in that area more, but not on Willamette Street. I'd rather see them on a side street or a dedicated bike path, something of that nature, but not bicycle lanes on Willamette. It's just, as a bicyclist, I would not use them, and I think it's a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Landfield is next, followed by what looks like George McGinnis.
Scott Landfield, Betty Taylor's ward. I agree very much with the U of O fellow over here who said that a test is a waste of time and money. On April 30th, I received an email from Betty, all in bold, that was CC'd to the city council. Betty said, I quote, "I'm opposed to a test. If the design is harmful, the harm will occur during a test, and the real construction is sure to cause some disruption. Thus, a test could mean double trouble. I think we should decide what is best considering all available data, including the experiences of other cities, and do whatever we decide is best one time." Signed, Betty. I have been in town 35 years, in big part because it is a bicycle-friendly town. I raised my daughter on bicycles. We traveled all over town on bicycles. My business is on Willamette. I'm very happy there's a bicycle cut-through that is coming in this summer specifically for bicycles from the Amazon Bikeway to Willamette. It's not, cars aren't allowed. Kathy said, maybe it won't work, let's try it. Well, if it doesn't work, I lost 18% in business for the 2 months of the remodel last time, and then another 12 the next couple months till people got going. I've spent all my savings, and I'm now paying 29% on my credit cards to keep my business alive. I don't need you people taking any more of my money for your tests. I'd like to get some of that money back regardless of the future. I agree in a third lane. I agree in the bike lane as an eventuality. However, I do have patience. We have 56 business owners and managers signed a form against it, 2 in favor of the test.
George McGinnis is next, followed by Vicki Mello.
My name is George McGinnis. My wife owns the Metropole Bakery, and at 2538 Willamette Street, which is right in the center of the Willamette Street issue, and we're very concerned about a resolution. I'm not going to read anything from this. I would like to give it to the staff when I'm finished speaking. My main mission here tonight is to deliver 2 collective statements of the South Eugene community's thinking. One is a petition of the general population of the users of Willamette Street, and the second is the survey that Scott just mentioned of the business owners, the property owners, and the managers of the businesses. The reason that they were surveyed by our study committee is that we felt they were in the best position to interpret any economic change on the street due to any activity and on the downside or upside, hopefully. The petition is signed by 177 signers. It is a support of a traffic plan that the study committee has come up with as an alternative to traffic engineering's proposals. It is the only plan developed by the public that we know of. It uses the total 60-foot right-of-way, which the public owns on Willamette Street, as opposed to the traffic engineering using only the roadway, which is 42 feet. If you take into consideration the 60 feet right-of-way, you can have room for a 14-foot shared use bikeway. Very much. Thank you.
Vicki Mello is next, followed by Marina Hayek.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Vicki Mello. I'm in George Polling's district, and I bike most of for my transportation, and I generally do not frequent Willamette Street very often because it does feel very unsafe to me riding my bike on the sidewalk, and if I have to walk my bike on the sidewalk, then it makes even less space for anyone else to use the sidewalk. I would use Willamette Street a lot more. If there were bike lanes, I would probably go to a lot more businesses. I'd like to go to the Wild Bird Center, also to Capella's, and down to the Woodfield Station, but at this time I don't because it is too dangerous for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Marina Hayek is next, followed by Jane Grant.
Good evening, council members. My name is Marina Hayek, 2410 Madison Street, and I am here to share some information that I came across, something I'm learning about, and is that I was surprised to learn that my husband gets $20 for riding his bicycle to work. He gets it from his boss. So I called him to find out what was this about, where is it coming from, and he sent me this huge document about the Public Law 110-343, October 3, 2008, Division B Energy Improvement and Extension Act of 2008. After Browsing through so many pages, I found Title II, Transportation and Domestic Fuel Security Provisions, Section 211, Transportation Fringe Benefit to Bicycle Commuters. I still didn't understand very well, so I did some more research, and I came through a paper pedaling towards a more equitable tax ride for cyclists from Jennifer Schulberg from St. Louis University School of Law, which explains, and this is just a paragraph, one of the most comprehensive examples of our collective efforts to rebuild the nation is the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act of 2008. The bailout bill, which President George W. Bush signed into law on October 3, 2008. The purpose of the bailout bill was to provide stability to the economy through federal acquisition of assets and to promote energy production and tax relief through amendments to the Internal Revenue Code, the tax code. One of the bailout bill's amendments to the tax code extended a tax incentive to employees who elect to ride the bicycle to work. This was created with a purpose.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Next is Jane Grant, followed by Heather Bray.
Good evening. My name is Jane Grant, and I live in South Eugene in Betty Taylor's ward. I'm against 3 lanes on Willamette Street. I've lived in South Eugene for over 30 years. Willamette Street is a road of commerce and commuting, and a majority of people use cars for this purpose. College Hill and friendly neighborhood side streets will become a maze of cars creatively avoiding the gridlock that Willamette will become if reduced to 3 lanes. LTD and fire responders say they cannot maintain schedules or ensure safe response times. There are alternate routes for bicycles, and more could be improved without reducing 4 lanes on Willamette. Safety is important to me, and when we sacrifice the general community's safety, we put everyone at risk. Every street cannot support both cars and bicycles safely. Willamette is the main corridor for north-south traffic in Eugene. I have never felt in danger driving on Willamette Street or walking on the sidewalks with my children and my grandchildren in this area, and I use this corridor daily. I agree with the Oak Street dedicated bike concept and keeping Willamette 4 lanes for cars. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Bray is next, followed by Paul Moore.
Good evening. My name is Heather Bray. I live in Eugene. I've been here for 14 years. Every weekday, my son and I ride our bicycles to get to the village school where he's in 1st grade. Our daily bike commute is not only an opportunity for fresh air, exercise, and connection, but also an opportunity for me to teach him how to be a safe and respectful bicyclist. That means, among other things, not riding on the sidewalk where he could endanger a pedestrian. After dropping my son off at school, I continue to my office near campus, where I work as a special education consultant supporting young children of Lane County with developmental delays and disabilities and their families. I am proud of my community, and I am proud of the many ways in which we welcome and encourage bicycling, a means of transportation that has myriad physical, emotional, and ecological benefits. After school, my son and I often have various errands to run. Unfortunately, the configuration of 4 lanes on South Willamette Street does not provide us with safe access to the businesses we would like to support. We are not able to safely access my son's dentist's office either. As I said, we haven't biked there because it's not safe. When I described why I was missing bedtime tonight to come here, my son had this to say about the current configuration. That sounds horrible. That would feel not safe at all because there's no place that cars can't go that only bikes can. When I described alternative 3, he responded, "It would feel safer and better. I could go on that street with bike lanes." Alternative 3 will provide everyone with safe and easy access to the amenities that South Willamette Street has to offer. Thank you for your hard work on this issue. Thank you for hearing my testimony in strong support of Alternative 3, no trial. Let's make our community stronger and more livable for all.
Thank you. Paul Moore is next, followed by Courtney Moore.
Hi, thank you, counselors, for holding up through our long evening and for all the work you put in learning about this over the last several months. I live at 2586 Potter Street in Alan Zelenka's ward. Real quickly, let's see, 23 years living within a mile of Willamette Street, family of 5. Most of those years we got around primarily by car, few of those years by car, primarily by biking, walking, and a little bit of skating the rest of the years. So we've had a lot of experience getting around all that area. We get to our local stores like Sundance and places along Hilliard pretty easily from our neighborhood on Potter Street. Willamette Street, not so easily. And it spent very little time over there other than going in the back parking lot at True Value quite often. Then, kind of surprisingly, 5 years ago, I ended up right on Willamette Street at the corner of 27th and Willamette with a business. And that was sort of a shock to me, but that was a place that was open. And now I spent a lot of time there. I spent a lot of time walking up and down there. I spent a lot of time riding on the street and just getting used to the whole thing. And I find that it's got the potential to be an incredible, vital area for business. And what's going to create that primarily is we create an area that's vibrant with people walking and biking and out on the street, and that's what draws customers like bears to honey. You know, it's where where people want to be. A couple things about business along the street is that parking is a limiting factor, and that when you've got way more than enough traffic now than you can park cars in. When it's busy there and rush hour and stuff, parking is the thing that holds up business. And more people walking, more people biking will be more business traffic for everybody along there. Saturday is the best business day on that street. There's no rush hour on that day. The traffic is moderate, and yet everybody does more business that day.
Thank you. Courtney Moore is next, followed by Beth Stein.
Hello, my name is Courtney Moore. I'm one of the family of 5 who lived at 2586 Potter Street for a long time. I'm 29 years old. We've lived here for 23 years. I don't have a driver's license. I might get one someday. So far, I feel very privileged to have been able to make that choice and been supported by my family and my community. I don't drive for many reasons. I choose to bike and walk and skate and bus. I feel that deepens my sense of connection to the place that I live in, and it builds the community that I live in. I see people on a daily basis. I can make eye contact with them. I can stop and talk if I choose to. When I am moving at a speed at about 10 miles an hour or less, I can stop when I choose to and turn when I choose to. I can stop at businesses. I can stop to say hi to friends. Cars are only going through. I think that's a very important thing to consider when thinking about Willamette Street. I also feel that having the right to choose to ride my bike is a freedom that I want to see upheld by our city. And I hope that the fear of the people who are afraid of change won't influence you away from the freedom of choice. I think that looking at a street and seeing every option represented then gives a person an opportunity to make a fair choice rather than looking at a street that says drive here. So please choose option 3 for Willamette Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth Stein and Alan Pittman after Beth.
Hello, my name is Beth Stein, and I live in Ward 2 and have lived in Eugene for over 20 years now. And I live very near the corner of 29th and Willamette, so I'm very familiar with all the craziness that is that part of town. I ride my bike and I drive my car, so I don't come down on either side saying, thou shalt not drive cars, even though I ride a bike. I believe that both uses are definitely compatible, and I'd like to point out there have been times when people talk about, well, you know, you can just go the other way on the alternative street, the alternative route, which is true, and I prefer going on the nice way through Amazon Park, but the truth is everybody wants to get from point A to point B the most efficiently as they can, and that includes bikes. And so, like when I rode my bike down here tonight, I could have gotten here a lot faster if I could have just gone right from my house down Willamette Street, but I did take the long, more scenic route, which was lovely, but when I want to get somewhere, I want to get somewhere just like I want to get somewhere in a car. So I think it's legitimate for me to have that desire as well. I also do live very near the fire station, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of fire people or safety, but I do know that there is the way that the fire folks get out of their little tiny space into a 2-lane road, into a 3-lane road, into the bigger Willamette. There's a lot of slowdown that has a lot to do with not just the big 4-lane road. And frankly, the road will be just as wide as it is now. And it will have 3 lanes of traffic instead of 2, so I could see cars moving to the side quicker and maybe even making it faster for fire engines and such. I also want to point out that if I and others like me ride my bike more often on Willamette, we'll be taking cars off the road, which should help with the slowdown that people are concerned about when they say that the road will be slower because there's bikes and all sorts of extra distractions. The fewer cars on the road, the faster they will be able to go.
Thank you. Alan Pittman is the last one up.
Hello, Alan Pittman, Ward 2. Thanks to the staff and mayor and council for considering much-needed improvements to Willamette Street. I live near the street, and my family and I have driven, shopped, everything from gold to birdseed, walked and biked the area for 2 decades. As recommended by your staff and consultants in numerous reports and meetings, bike lanes will make the street safer, more livable, more environmentally friendly, better for business, increase access, increase efficiency, and best meet official city plans and goals. If anything, the 3-lane option will improve fire truck access while decreasing accidents that require response. Safer, increased access for people on foot and on bikes will boost business. The center turn lane will increase driver access, and drivers will be able to easily park and walk between adjacent businesses, further reducing congestion. The bike lanes will provide a long missing link on the most direct, flattest route to area businesses and downtown from South Eugene. The bike lanes will provide a safety buffer for pedestrians and remove dangerous 4-lane crossings, like the former deadly crossing near Churchill. While a trial run may be unlikely to change the minds of those biased against bicycles and pedestrians, it does appear to have the benefit of installing the improvement more quickly, as far as I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. Thank everybody for being here this evening and sitting with us through all this testimony. I wanted to make a comment that many of us have been spending more than a couple months on this. This has been in motion for a couple years, actually, so I've done a lot of thinking about it. Also wanted to ask the city manager if we could have some clarification on the cost of your proposal.
I'll start. If you need more information, Chris Henry is also here. The cost of the trial is approximately $900,000, with approximately $700,000 of that, which would be a cost that would be borne and we would have regardless of the ultimate outcome of any of the alternatives. So in other words, that cost would be a cost that we would spend regardless of whether it was a trial or not a trial, and whether or not it was 3 or 4 lanes. And so really the delta, the marginal for doing the trial is plus or minus $150,000 to $200,000. That's primarily for the actual analysis that we would want to actually have that would, from our perspective, would help us to confirm the analysis of the Willamette Street Improvement Plan and really determine if there are any unintended consequences of implementing that plan.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. I think we have to always keep clarifying what those dollars really are. Any other questions or comments from council?
Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Clark.
Thank you. That's the interesting part for me, is with regard to the test, we're going to spend the money to determine if there's any unforeseen consequences, any unexpected outcomes. For me, this is a question about safety. And we've discussed the idea that we know right now that on average we have 2 car versus bike accidents a year on Willamette as it exists right now. And many people mentioned that they don't travel Willamette right now, but they'd like to if we would include a safe space for bikes. So my question, which I don't know if it's been modeled, but instead of doing this test, I'm wondering why we're not doing computer modeling that would tell us the answer to what so many people have said, which is what will be the increase in the number of bikes that use Willamette with each of these configurations, and specifically with 3, once we add bike lanes. What will be the increase in the number of bikes used on that street? Because I think it's been pretty clearly shown by everyone who spoke. We're going to have a large increase of bike users on Willamette. And my concern isn't the left-hand turns, it's the right turns. Because when a car is turning right on Willamette Street on a street that has more access points than almost any other street in the city, that they're turning right in front of a bike while a bike rider is going to be in their blind spot. So my question is this. As we massively increase the number of bike riders on Willamette, and we already have 2 bike versus car accidents a year, can you tell me what will be the number of bike versus car accidents when we increase the number of bikes that dramatically? And if you can't, shouldn't that be the test we're modeling with a computer rather than actual people?
I don't know, Chris, if you're prepared to answer that question tonight or not.
Well, I'm hopeful that when we get to the point where we make a decision, we can have some manner of language that helps us do that test as a computer model, as some manner of model where we don't have to put people at harm's risk to find out. Because my common sense sort of view here says that we're going to increase the risk to people riding bikes there and increase the number of car versus bicycle accidents fairly dramatically. And we've seen in our area some of the consequences of that, and I want to know if we're going to test something, let's test that and let's do it at a lower cost.
What we can do is when we come back on the 27th, we can have some additional information about that. What I do remember from the last work session, what Chris mentioned is at least from what we know is actually the increase in the number of bicyclists actually doesn't increase the danger to them, but actually could decrease the danger to them. We can talk more about that.
So is that one of the outcomes of this test? If we were to do it for a year or 2 and have an increase in number of accidents of cars versus bikes, would that be a sufficient outcome for our test? Is that a criteria for an outcome?
I don't have all those answers right now. On the 27th, we'd be happy to come back and have a fuller conversation around that.
Councilor Surratt.
Thank you. I look forward to hearing those answers at that work session as well. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came out tonight and folks who have also contacted us via email. A lot of really important points made, both about the improvement that could be made on the street and about the caution in terms of impact to businesses while we are in the process of doing any construction. And irregardless of what option we choose, whether or not we do a test, there will be disruption on the street, and we need to be mindful of how we can address that and keep it to a minimum. So I will look forward to our work session and getting some answers to some of the concerns that councilors are raising. But I did also want to reiterate the thanks that I heard from a number of speakers tonight for Chris Henry's work and his team's work in reaching out to folks, businesses on Willamette and community, and just wanted to echo the thanks that many of you gave here for the work of that team.
Councilor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. One of our speakers, I appreciate early on, brought up another question that I'd love to have answered by staff before we make a decision as well, and that is that if the eventuality in the next year is that Fred Meyer is granted the opportunity to build there at the civic site, what will that do to traffic modeling for that area? Thank you.
All right, Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. I've said this before, and someone read my words again tonight, but I do think that anything we do is going to cause some disruption. I'm sure it will, and I don't think we should do a test. I think we need to make up our minds, not quickly, but eventually, what we're going to do, and have one disruption when there's the repaving, which is unavoidable. But I don't think that we need to do a test and cause people to go through disruptions 2 times. It will take some time. It will take, it won't be a few days. We're talking about a year, but it will take months before you know. And in the meantime, people are going to be hurt. The businesses on the street will be hurt. That's unavoidable. And it will happen when we do the repaving, and I think we should do it once instead of 2 times. Thank you.
Councilor Taylor's comments make me think that it would be helpful in our conversation when we have our work session to have a full understanding of, if we did the test, how much disruption and how we would handle that, and the length of time, so what kind of outreach we would do, how we would try to make that as least harmful to the businesses as possible, if we make I think in any case we'll do some work on the streets. So again, what do we expect with that too?
Yeah, we'll be able to talk more about that. The test, real briefly, the vast majority of those dollars spent is for the new traffic signal, which again would happen regardless, and then the actual restriping of a street is not particularly long-term disruptive. It's a pretty, not particularly disruptive if you're just restriping a street, for example. But we'll talk more about that on the 27th.
I think being able to lay that out will be really helpful to people. Councilor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor. One last thing is for contextual understanding of our decision. I have an understanding that we're planning on building a specialized and a specific bikeway within a block or 2 very nearby, and that's already in the planning and it's going to happen. And so my understanding, for the sake of context, is can we get better information about the timing of that, the utility of that, how robust it is, what are some of the specifics, so that we aren't making a decision in a vacuum and we can really know what's being specifically created for bike riders nearby?
Yes.
All right. With that, we're going to call it an evening. Thank you, everybody, very much.